What's up, y'all? This is like the A-team out here today in the snow and the cold. Thanks for coming out. Hope you learned something good today. I put a lot of great information in here, so I hope it's helpful. Yeah, like Jordan said, the topic is going to be on scaling your real estate investments with the focus on house hacking. But like Jordan said, a lot of this is going to apply to more than just house hacking as well. All right, so my objective tonight is that most people will walk away thinking scaling is possible for me and I should strongly consider doing it now. Here's the outline. Getting the first one. We're going to real quick talk about getting the first one, buying the first one right, because obviously that is crucial for scaling. We're going to talk about 4 limiting factors to scaling, how to overcome those limitations, and then one of those limitations is misconceptions, and so we'll dive deep into a couple of misconceptions. A lot of this is going to be high level, and I'm going to go through it quick. I'll do a couple deeper dives into a couple topics. So getting the first one, you got to buy something that's going to do well when you move out. So something with a lot of bedrooms, with a different unit you could rent, something where you can make another unit, and then you got to buy with the exit plan in mind. What are you going to do in year 2 when you move out? What are you going to do with that first house so that you can go get the second house? You got to think through that plan while you're buying the first one. So ideally, when you move out, you'll cash flow a little bit, hopefully not lose more than 100 or 200. Today's market, prices have gone up, interest rates have gone up. It is a little less realistic to think that you're going to kill it cash flow in the first year and even necessarily when you move out. But we know real estate produces a ton of awesome ways to grow your net worth, and it's still a fantastic investment. So that's getting the first one. Now, how do we scale? Limiting factors. So money, knowledge, time, and mindset. You've got to overcome all 4 of these things in order to scale. First one's money. You've got to have access to money for the down payment, for purchasing your home, which is probably going to be a loan, and for the rehab. So we'll talk about those things in a little bit. Knowledge. You got to know, like, hey, I can buy a home with 0 to 5% down, and I can do it every year. If you don't know that, then you're not going to be able to scale. Now you know that. First one's over. It's so surprising to me, and I feel like it's our job in here to tell everyone you can get a house for 0 to 5% down. You do not need to have $300,000. You do not need to have 20% down. You can get a house for 0 to 5% down. It shocks me how many of even my friends don't know that. And I'm like, I'm a terrible friend. Like, I've been doing this for 4 years and you don't know this? Like, how do you think that I'm buying these homes? So let's tell everybody. Time. We got 24 hours in the day. You should be sleeping. You're going to be working. Hopefully you're enjoying some of your life. We got to figure out ways to scale, do more work in the same amount of time or in less time. And then mindset. Goals and motivations. You got to think long-term vision. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a get-rich-hard thing. It takes a lot of work. And there's a mindset 2 switch, and this was in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it was switching your mindset from I can't afford this, right? Like, whoa, look at that. There's no way I can afford that. 2, like, how can I afford it? And instead of this limiting belief, it's what do I need to learn? Who do I need to connect with? What do I need to do to be able to afford this or do this? A big thing with mindset is fear. People are scared to make this massive purchase. They're scared to get foreclosed on. They're scared of all these what ifs. What if I can't find tenants, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure you can fill in your own what ifs if you've thought about or bought a house before. And my big thing is that education overcomes that fear. Look at your list of fears. Write them all out. Everything you can think through. I'm scared of this. What if this? What if this? And write them all out. And then go through each one by one, and think, okay, if this happens, do I have a solution? If this happens and I don't have a solution, who can I talk to that might have a solution? Or what do I need to go learn about to deal with this or to avoid this? Or how do I buy right so that I can avoid that? And then there's always risk. I mean, if it's not scaring you, then it's not going to be something challenging. It's not going to be something worth doing. So it's going to be scary every time. Every time I buy a house, I'm a little scared. And I've got to write down all my fears of what could go wrong and think through them. So this is how I think through it. This might not be right for everybody. I could be completely wrong. This is what comforts me. I would be in trouble. So first of all, I have 6 months of reserves for my living expenses. I know what that is, and I have 6 months for it. And then I have 6 months for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance for all my properties. That's pretty conservative. This is my worst case scenario. I lose my job, right? Clients stop buying and selling home for 6+ months. I can't find tenants for 6 months. And home prices have dropped significantly. I can't sell my house. What happens if all that happens? I foreclose and my credit is terrible for 7 years. In my mind, that's like the worst case. And then I'm back to doing whatever I was before I tried this house hacking real estate scaling thing, right? So my worst case is like being back to where I was before, except my credit is shit. So that's going to make life a little more difficult. If it doesn't, then I significantly grow my net worth and my financial freedom. So it's like a risk reward, right? Is the risk worth the reward? I've decided it is. So I hope that's a helpful way to think through like fear and sort of shifting your mindset. So those are the 4 limitations. Here is how we overcome them. So goals and principles, financing, technology and systems, education, networking, mentor, and then we'll talk through some misconceptions. Think about your goals. I know it might sound cheesy, but like having a why and thinking through your goals, something that's going to like motivate you and keep you going when it's like, man, this is a lot of work, or this is, I'm cleaning a toilet, or I'm calling an electrician in the middle of the night, or I'm figuring out how to clean a hot tub while I'm at Valentine's dinner with my girlfriend and friends, right? That happened last Valentine's. That sucked. So having something that's going to motivate you. I'm not your life coach, but take some time, think about it, and figure out what it is for you. So this is a big one. You got to have money, right? Real estate's expensive. You got to have money, access to money, figuring it out. So the first thing you got to have money for is a down payment. Sometimes you can get 0% down. Down payment assistance. They'll give you a free loan, 0% interest, to pay all of the down payment. You do not have to pay it back until you refinance or sell the home. 0% interest. Pretty sweet. Or you could save it. If you don't have it saved, why not? Are you living below your means? Living below your means is a massively important aspect of buying and scaling real estate. Can you borrow from a friend or family? Do you have that first property? Can you get a HELOC? Can you do a cash out refinance? And then I already talked about down payment assistance. Listen, Linda, listen. I can't show you houses until you speak to a lender. The biggest way you're going to get money for the purchase of a home is a loan. So you have got to qualify. And speaking with a lender that understands house hacking, Jeremy's here tonight. Jeremy understands house hacking. Lenders that understand what you're trying to do and how to get you there are huge. And then credit score, you got to have above a 690 to qualify for a conventional loan. Once you get to 750, interest rates really aren't going to get that much better. So I wouldn't be obsessed personally with the credit score if you've already got it above 750. There's a lot more important things to worry about than your credit score being above 750. Okay, so here I want to break down real quick like how you can figure out if you could qualify for a loan and sort of what the lender does. So they're going to calculate a ratio called DTI, which is debt to income. So basically what they're going to do is they're going to take all your debt payments here on the left column, and they're going to add them up. Then they're going to take all of your income and add it up. And this is a monthly debt and a monthly income. And then they're going to take the ratio between the debt to the income. And your monthly debts, including the mortgage for the new home, cannot be more than 50% of your monthly income. If they are, you're not going to qualify for that mortgage, and you've got to change something. So you got a car payment. You could sell your car, buy a cheap car with cash. Cars depreciate anyways. Who needs them? get a house. You could pay off your credit card debt or move it to like a 0% interest card, right, to get rid of that credit card debt payment. The other way, if you've got, your house hack number one, you can use the rent that you've been showing on your tax returns on the Schedule E as income to help you qualify. If you don't have that, you can use a lease. So get a lease lined up, somebody ready to move in, and you can actually use that lease to offset the mortgage, the debt for your first house, and then use your job income to qualify for the next one. Again, I always encourage people, like, you just report all of your rental income because it helps you scale, which is so much more important than the 30% you might skimp the government on by not paying. And you're kind of doing something illegal by not paying your taxes. So it helps you scale and you stay out of trouble. Maybe you gotta think about changing your job, right? Increasing this side, increasing the income side. And then money for the rehab. How do we get money for the rehab? You can get a hard money loan. This is a great loan right now, is the FHA 203K loan, where you can basically mortgage over 30 years, not only the purchase price of the home, but all of the rehab costs as well. Now that homes are sitting longer and buyers have got a little more power, sellers are more open to these loans. It takes 45, 60 days to close, so not super common, the last couple of years, because sellers were selling things the first weekend on the market. But people are definitely open to that now, and I've had conversations with listing agents where if my buyers I was working with wanted to move forward, they would have taken the 203K loan. And then personal loan, right? Call grandma. You don't know who has money. So people are like, I don't have money, I don't know anybody. And I would say, you'd be surprised at who has money, and don't say you don't know any without money until you've asked everybody. The other appeal of this is, like, people are a little nervous of the stock market right now, right? Like last year, it dipped like crazy. People, if they know you and trust you, negotiate an interest rate with them that they're excited about to get a return on their money, and borrow money from them for a rehab. I have a really simple contract I wrote up with 2 different friends, with a grandparent, to borrow money for different rehabs that I've done. So money's out there, it's everywhere. All right, we'll run through this part real quick, but you gotta protect your time, right? So technology and systems is gonna help you overcome this time limitation. Managing tenants, making it easy. You got apartments.com, Zillow, RentReady. I'm not gonna dive into these, but these are all software that really make it easy and consolidated to manage your tenants and all the things involved with them. You can collect rent, you can do background checks, you can have a place for them to upload their renter's insurance. Putting listings on Facebook Marketplace makes it really easy to advertise and get tenants quicker. To scale, as far as time goes, you can outsource, hire, or leverage technology. So think about in your systems and as you're doing what you can outsource, who you can hire, or what you can use technology to save you time. If you've got short-term rentals, Hospitable automates the messaging for your short-term rentals. Price Labs and Wheelhouse can recognize demand in the market and change the price of your Airbnb accordingly, instead of you having to go in there and guess at what you think a good price would be. Having good cleaners is huge. Cleaners that'll take pictures, cleaners that will tell you what needs to be restocked. And then accounting sucks. It's my least favorite part, sitting in front of the computer trying to like balance numbers, but these are three great resources that will make that easier. Still not good at it, but it'll make it easier. They're good at it, I'm not good at it. Property managers, at some point, it's no longer going to be worth your time to try and manage all the properties yourself, and you got to think about handing that off to a property manager so that you can focus on your higher earning potential activities. These are some great books. So Education, Overcoming the Knowledge and the Mindset Limitation. These are books that I have read and that I highly recommend. Your Money, Your Life, Richest Man in Babylon, obviously Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then these 2 Bigger Pockets books at the bottom, Set for Life and House Hacking Strategy.
Where's your book?
I left space for it right here once I write it. Podcasts, all the Bigger Pockets podcasts I think are great. Go ask other investors what they like. And then I've got a podcast where I just pulled together a bunch of like house hacking podcasts that I really like. So if you want that, come talk to me. I'll send it to you. Networking, overcoming the knowledge and the mindset, and maybe even the money. Yeah, if you haven't read that yet, I thought that was funny. So hearing like going to a meetup and being like, this guy right here that I know, that I can talk to, that's a real person in my city, is doing it. It's not just something I hear on a podcast. It's not something somewhere else. It is really like powerful, motivating, like, okay, this is real. Like a real person is doing this. I think that's a huge value of going to groups like this and networking events. And then the things that I have learned at meetups have also been awesome. I couldn't have learned them somewhere else, or it would have taken a long time. Probably wouldn't have learned them yet. Here's a couple examples. Security Service Federal Credit Unions doing a HELOC, 100% loan to value on your primary, and 15 years, 15-year amortized interest only, then you lock in for 25 years at a fixed rate. Like, I wouldn't have learned that if I hadn't gone to a networking event. A bunch of Airbnb tips, that you can get insurance for a sewer line. I found an amazing plumber. I met Zach, who's going to put a yurt on his porch and rent it out. And Michael, who's going to put a tiny home on his property. Right? So I just hearing different cool ideas that I didn't get on the podcast or the books. Finding somebody to mentor is also a great way to overcome the knowledge and the mindset limitations. Someone who's done it. I would highly recommend a realtor who's done it. They are incentivized to help you. And they get paid a lot more if they help you be successful with your first one and help you scale. And they're very incentivized to sit down with you, tell you all the resources and all the knowledge that they have. My realtor walked me through how to convert 2 garage conversions. I had no idea you could do that. Definitely had no idea how to do it. He took me to the building department, sat down with them, had a little drawing on graph paper, and introduced me to a bunch of contractors. Like, doing that or figuring that out on my own would have been very difficult. All right, so let's talk about a couple misconceptions. Timing the market, interest rates are too high, and PMI is bad. So we're going to run through these, a little deeper dive in each one of these. The stock market, if you think you bought the dip, it can keep going lower. You cannot time the market. No one can time the market. You don't know what it's going to happen. People tell me I'm just going to wait. And I'm wondering, what are you going to wait for? I want to ask them, you know what's going to happen? Tell me. I would love to know. You're going to wait for rates to go down? You're going to wait for prices to go down? What are you waiting for? And what happens if those things don't happen? If your goal is to scale, right? If your goal is to get a house every year with house hacking, which is a really great way to get a house every year, then you should cost average. And what is cost averaging? If you don't know, it is investing something in equal amounts of money at regular intervals. So every year, buying a house. If you do that, you will eventually buy one. If it dips, you'll eventually buy one in the year that it dips. So I pulled all the data from Colorado Springs. These are median prices from Colorado Springs. And I wanted to compare, what if I waited? What if I was thinking about buying in 2005 and I waited through the run-up, the crash, and I bought at the trough of 2009? What would my return be? Well, I would have bought at a median price of 173. The median price today is 445. I would have gained this much equity for a return of 157. Sweet. Sick. I timed the market perfectly. And I got a really awesome return. But if I had bought, let's go jump to the bottom here. If I had bought in 2005, again in 2006, and again in 2007, and now I had 3 houses, I would have bought at this average price, right? That was from each of the 3 houses, that would be the average price. That's I'm going to sell 3 houses for that much, and I'm going to have that much equity for a total return of 303,000, or 303%. And then if I bought at the peak of 2007, and then again in 2008, and then at the trough of 2009, this would be my returns. Now you could say, well, Ryan, you're comparing 3 houses to 1. That's not fair. But this is the reality of if you try and wait and time the market. You're not buying a house every year. So it is like the reality of the situation is it's 3 to 1. So you can't time the market if you want to scale. You should really think about cost averaging in. People had told me in 2019 to not buy. Prices had gone up since 2009. You shouldn't buy. And what would have happened if I had waited? You'll have a lot of friends and family that are really well-meaning that are going to give you advice. And I would encourage you, consider if they are really an expert in what they're giving you advice on. And I think a lot of times, friends, especially parents, we sort of think, oh, they know what they're talking about, or oh, you know, they've got great advice, they're the authority. I would really question, like, no matter how confident someone speaks, are they really the expert, and should you be listening to their advice? They may not understand also the long-term vision of what you're trying to do. So this is housing prices from 1993. This is Pikes Peak Association of Realtor data on the median price from 1993 to current. Since April, the median price in Colorado Springs has dropped 10%. That also happened in 2016, so it could be seasonality. It's a little too early to tell. Misconception number 2, interest rates are too high. They are really high compared to how it's been the last 4 years, but it's a great time to buy because houses are sitting on the market longer. It was 7 days a year ago as the average days on market. Now it's 50. People are getting seller concessions. People are getting houses for under asking. It's still a great time to buy. There will never be a perfect time to buy. Sometimes price is going to be great. Sometimes rate is going to be great. Sometimes there's not going to be any competition. And sometimes it's going to be really easy to get a loan, depending on the market. But all those will never happen at once. Therefore, it's never a perfect time to buy and never a perfect time to wait. And yeah, I like to tell people this too. If rates go down, you'll be happy you bought. You can refinance in 6 months. If they go up, then you'll be happy you bought. You locked in at a lower rate. Okay, so these are interest rates over a certain time period that I'm not going to tell you yet. But this is current today. Does anyone want to guess what this was the last time it was above 5%? 04? 2014? 2018? 17? 2011 was the last time it was above 5%. It's been under 5% since 2011. It has been under 7% since 2002. We have been spoiled with interest rates. And if you look at it since the early 70s, interest rates right now are actually not that high. So something to keep in mind and consider when you're thinking about interest rates. Okay, last one. We're going to finish with this. PMI is bad. Hey, Ryan, my friend told me that PMI is real bad. And if I put down 20%, I can avoid that fee. And that fee is bad, and I should definitely not put down 5%. I'm here to say that PMI is one of the greatest things in the lending world, in the real estate world, because without it, you could not get a home for 0 to 5% down. No bank would give you a loan with only 5% collateral. If there wasn't this private mortgage insurance that basically insures the bank if home prices drop more than 5% and now they're underwater and I can't pay them. So it is a massive benefit, creates massive opportunity for us to be able to scale with our house hacks. And it's really cheap, so let me break it down. If you have a credit score of 750 and you're going to put a 5% down on a conventional loan, your PMI percentage of that loan is 0.39% of the loan is what your PMI payment is yearly. So if you bought a house for $473, you put 5% down, your loan amount is $450. 0.39% of $450 is $1,755 a year. Sounds like a lot, not like great, but I'm gonna present this in 2 different ways. One, how long would it take you to save that extra 15%? This is another reason that PMI is great. It allows you to put 5% down versus 90. You don't have to wait. How many years is it going to take you to save $67,500? Probably a couple at least. PMI allows you to avoid having to wait those years. You can get into a house. And then here's the other thing, is the opportunity cost. Even let's say you had the 20% and you're going to buy a primary residence. I think it's still crazy to put 20% down because of the opportunity cost, right? So we said the cost of the PMI for that is $1,755 or something like that. If you invested that $67,500 and got 4% return on a U.S. Treasury bond, you're making $2,700. You're almost making $1,000 more. So you can pay the PMI and put $1,000 in your pocket. So why would you avoid PMI? And this is a simple interest rate. This isn't even like compounding if you were like going to put it in the stock market and just leave it for years. This is the opportunity cost. So if you could get a 4% return, you'd be $945 positive a year, and so on and so forth. So if you could get a 10% return on that extra 15% that you're not putting down, you'd have an extra $5,000 a year. So again, my encouragement, leverage PMI. It's awesome. Here's the 3 guys running the meetup. They're pretty cool. And thanks for coming out, y'all. Grab a beer. Meet somebody you don't know.